binary operator overloading. In binary operators we know you need to have two operands. So, you can have plus, minus, multiplication or division. You can overload all these operators and you need to have two. In the previous program that we had seen, there was only one object and one operator, O1 plus plus or O2 plus plus, plus plus O2, prefix or postfix. Here it is binary, so there needs to be two operands. So, in which case two objects have to be involved in calling these operators. So, this is similar to overloading a unary operator, except that it requires a binary operator, that is additional object as a argument. So, we will see an example for this as well. You have the over class, you are having a private data member, you are having n of type integer, the same program I have used that we had used for the unary operator, but the thing is here we are going to have two objects. The same two types of constructors, one with an argument, one without an argument. And here if you see the definition of the operator function, the declaration itself is different. There it was over operator plus plus with an argument, without an argument. Here it is a binary operator. So, I have just given 1 plus the operator function of type class and I have here passed an object as a parameter. In the prefix and postfix operator overloading, you had seen that we had passed a variable, integer variable as an argument, whereas in this binary operator overloading we are passing a object of the class as a argument. So, this is the difference between unary and binary operator overloading. Next we are again having the display function to display the result. So, how does the compiler identify this operator overloading and how does it call the function? So, before we go to the main function, we have to first define the constructors and this operator function in the class. So, you are having the first constructor function initialization to 0 and the next constructor function where you are initializing the data member to the number variable, and then you are having this operator function, return type is of type object, class name, scope resolution operator, operator keyword, the symbol and then over OB. This over OB is explicitly given over here only to identify the parameter as an object. And inside this particular definition, the same thing that is coming for unary operators, we have to have a temporary variable which is of type class, that means this is also an object. Now, this is where the difference lies between the unary and the binary operators. In the case of the unary operator, you simply had one operand over here and you either increased its value and assigned it to this object or you assigned the same value to the object. In the case of binary operator overloading, if you see, you are having one temporary object t, you are having the data member as such and you are having an object plus the data member. So, what does this indicate to the compiler and how it is interpreted by the compiler and how do we understand that it works? In binary operator overloading, we all know binary operators take up two operands. So, when we come to operator overloading, our operands are nothing but objects. So, objects are nothing but they belong to a class. So, when you are overloading these binary operators and you are defining the function of what the operator is expected to do, you need to have two objects whose values are to be added and you need a third object where the added value is to be deposited. So, that is what is done here in this operator function. You are having the third object which is supposed to hold the value, the added value. You are having one data member which belongs to the object which calls this function and you are having the second object whose value you are passing as an argument. So, three objects are involved over here, one object which calls the function, the other object which is passed as a parameter to the function and the third object which is used to hold the added value or the manipulated value, and finally you are returning the object which has been manipulated. So, this is how binary operator overloading works. Now, in case instead of addition, if it was subtraction, here instead of plus it is going to be minus, if it was multiplication it is going to be a multiplication symbol. So, all the operators are to be overloaded the same way, the only difference is the change of symbol, the syntax, everything else is the same, the way the compiler understands the particular function also is the same. So, this is just an example where instead of addition you can use it for any other arithmetic assignment operators. Next, we are having this display function show where you are just displaying the number. Then you are having the main function. Now, here is where the compiler actually starts reading the program. So, this is where the execution of the program is going to start. So, first in any C++ program, as soon as the main function is created, we first have to create objects, because only using the objects you can access the members of the class. So, here I am having first object is O1, which is having the value 10, second object is O2, which is having the value 20, and the third object is O3. Now, here if you see, there are two constructors, one with no argument and one with an argument. Here if you see, there are two objects with an argument and one object without an argument. So, as soon as these objects are created, in both the cases the compiler calls the constructor which is having one argument. So, we will see which is that constructor, over int num. So, in the case of O1, 10 is assigned to n, in the case of O2, 20 will be assigned to n. So, whatever value is passed over here, that is assigned to the data member. Now, the next step we are having O3 is equal to O1 plus O2. So, this is how the operator function is called in C++, O1 plus O2. This is nothing but a binary operator plus, two objects are being sent as parameters, the third object is receiving the result. So, this O3 is receiving the result, O1 is calling the function, O2 is being passed as a parameter. So, how does the compiler understand or execute this particular function? It will go to this binary operator function where this first n is taken as O1's n, this ob.n is taken as the n of O2, this ob is understood as the object O2, and this t is understood as the object O3. So, now O3 is mentioned because it has to hold the result. So, that is assigned to this temporary variable. One object is passed as a parameter, that is a second operand, and this n belongs to the object which called the function, that is nothing but O1. So, O1's n is having the value 10, O2's n is having the value 20. So, 10 plus 20 is nothing but 30, that is assigned to this particular object t. Finally, you are returning the value of t. So, this is how the compiler understands this overloaded function, and then it will return the value t to this particular statement. The value t will go to O3, which is nothing but it holds the value 30. So, after that you are having this O1.show, which will carry the number 10, because O1 has not been manipulated, only O3 is changed. O3 is only holding the result. O1 is having this value 10, O2 is having the value 20, only O3 is having the value 30. So, when you give O1.show, the previous number 10 is only displayed. When you give O2.show, the number 20 is displayed, and when you give O3.show, the added operator function or the added operand value 30 is displayed. So, this is how a binary operator is overloaded in C++. Now, this O3 is equal to O1 plus O2, that particular statement is only the climax of this entire program, because depending upon the objects that are involved in that particular statement only, the compiler will interpret the operator function. So, there is a way you have to understand that particular statement. The plus operators used to overload or add to objects of the over class. So, you are going to add only objects here. O1 is the object of which the operator is a function, that means O1 is the object which is calling the operator function. O2 is the object which is passed as the parameter, and while overloading binary operators, the object on the left side of the operator is a member and the object on the right side is a parameter. So, you might have thought O3 is equal to, so I will just explain it with this particular operator. O3 is equal to O1 plus O2 was the statement. According to the rule, the object on the left side of the operator is the object which is calling the function. The object on the right side of the operator is being passed as the argument. So, if you give O2 plus O1 also, it does not make any difference, because in the case of addition you are just going to add the two values, but when you are going to divide or when you are going to subtract, this order becomes very important, because you have to always subtract the lower from the higher, mostly that is the case, unless you want a negative result. So, this particular order you might think in the case of addition it does not make any difference. Even if you give O2 plus O1, it is going to add 20 plus 10, and if you give O1 plus O2, it is going to add 10 plus 20. This is okay in the case of multiplication and addition, but in the case of modulo division, in the case of subtraction and in the case of division, this order becomes important. which number you are going to divide by which number and which number you are going to subtract from which number. So, for that you need to understand the rule and the order. O1 is the object which is calling the function and O2 is only passed as the argument. So, the object on the right side is passed as an argument, object on the left side is passed as the first parameter. So, this is the way the compiler understands the operator function. So, we have to think like the compiler when we execute the program. So, only when we think like the compiler we will know how the program will execute and how we will get the result. So, this is how binary operators are overloaded in C++.